in a world with no Patrick. This is the Northside Now intro. Welcome to Northside Now, the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin, and with me as always is my co-host, Glenn Miller.
Well, good morning.
I thought in honor of summer and the summer blockbuster, we'd enter that way. How's that? Well, hey, you know, we're through summer, at least the official start of summer, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And July 4th is come and gone.
Yeah.
We have got some news.
Breaking news.
Well, and it's, in terms of when this podcast launches, it's a little bit old news.
Well, it is a little old,
But it's still fairly fresh.
It's very fresh because it's happening this week.
Woohoo!
The release of this particular episode, things will happen. So on Thursday, July the 15th, our new pastor will be here. Woo! Oh, it's like, it's not that. Yeah, there we go. Maybe that's why Patrick doesn't use these as much.
We got overconfident with our use of
did.
The sound effects last time. Now we're a little bit rusty. But yeah, I am so excited.
And this is not a joke, folks, but his name is Kevin Glenn.
So what's his name?
Kevin Glenn.
Glenn?
Kevin Glenn.
Kevin Glenn?
Kevin Glenn.
So when you're in the room and I'm in the room, which is going to happen soon.
Yes, it will, because he is excited to come be a part of Northside Now.
It could be so confusing.
It's going to be pretty weird for sure. It's going to be really crazy. We're going to have to come up with a really good nickname for him.
Well,
quickly.
He will have a say-so in that, I'm sure. But
yes, the Reverend, is it Reverend Doctor or Dr. Reverend Doctor? Dr. Reverend Kevin Glenn.
The third Esquire.
Yeah. And he is coming to us from Tampa Bay, Florida.
Right.
And I saw on his Instagram last night after videoing this. What are we doing? After recording this podcast, Elsa just came through Tampa Bay, and he was picking up like a twig, and he's the cleanup from Elsa.
Right.
So it was pretty funny. But he was a hospital chaplain down there, and he had served in New Mexico and Las Cruces, and of course, we've heard now around the church a lot about him, and as a staff, we got to meet him when he was here visiting, and seems like a really great guy. He has a wife named Serena, who is awesome, and a young 20-year-old son named Cameron, and Cameron seems to be like a really great guy, and we need to get him and Patrick in here someday talking about Star Wars, and I think we could probably make 17 episodes out of that.
I'm sure we could.
So, but we're excited about the Glens coming to... That is just so weird to me. We're excited about the Glens coming. We're excited about the Glens coming. For real. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. He's got some energy.
That's good.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And on Sunday, July 25th, from 2 to 4 in Hope Hall, there's going to be a reception for them. There's a big church email going around about that and stuff. So definitely check that out. But he's going to be here Thursday the 15th will be his first day. He wanted to come be a part and see Vacation Bible School, which is going on this week as we release this. And so he wanted to see that and get started. In fact, he said, I wanted to get started yesterday whenever they hired him. And so we are excited because that's fun. That's fun. That's good stuff. And we're looking forward to it. And yes, Kevin is very excited about being on the podcast, and he is pro podcasting.
Yeah. Well, we are having lots of conversation about what the podcast kind of morphs into and how it evolves, and whether we do season 2 and what that looks like. Yeah. So having some really good conversation around that. I'm excited to sit and talk with him.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It seems like he did youth ministry for 18 years, so I'm sure we have lots of things to talk about. We'll have to talk about, youth ministry horror stories.
You don't have any of those.
What was the worst youth ministry experiences? That'd be fun to compare and contrast.
Oh man,
there's always good ones.
Talk about episodes. You could do tons on that.
There's always good ones. The thing is, until you start really talking about them, you really truly don't remember them all.
And then it all comes flooding back.
Yeah, it's really fun. Well, we're excited to have the Glens coming in and for this next chapter in Northside's journey as a church and as the body of Christ. And so it'll be fun.
On this show, we've talked a lot about anticipation and change and all those things. So it'd be really nice to actually start that change,
Yes,
and be a part of it. And I'm really excited, just like you.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something great around the corner.
And something else going on exciting right now is as we are speaking, a bunch of our junior boys, or they're seniors now. Goodness, they're going to be seniors here in just a few moments.
Yep.
But they're in New Mexico at Philmont Scout camp thing there. It's really in the mountains. It's an experience. It's like doing the AT in New Mexico.
Really?
But they take a train from St. Louis down to New Mexico, and they're hiking and doing all that. So I'm excited to hear their feedback and what's going on with them when they get back, because I have heard stories and known kids over the years that have gone to Philmont, and they talk about just what a life-changing experience that is, just all the experiences of that. So I'm excited for our senior guys that are going on that trip to hear their stories when they get back.
Yeah, and there's quite a few, right?
There's like 11 or 12 of them, something like that.
Yeah,
so,
I knew there were quite a few.
It's that's cool. I think it's good. My hope and desire is that it does come back, and they come back filled, because it's all about leadership growth, and they come back ready to lead us into a new day too. So
that's always great. That's always great.
Excited for those guys. I mean, 2 weeks of journeying. That's pretty cool.
Out west. Beautiful country out there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They'll see some sunsets and sunrises they never dreamed of.
Oh, man, no doubt.
So, and the official AT trekker for the Northside Now podcast, Sarah Baker and her husband Jonathan are back out on the AT.
That's
getting
right.
closer and closer to finishing that up.
Yep, I have gotten behind on my episodes, but I did see that they posted 1,600 miles.
Yeah,
so
1,600. And she had to take the break because she hurt her arm, broke her arm, and they're back out there. And man, what an incredible recovery she had, and they're back out there. And
yeah, did she pick a trail name yet?
I think she does have a trail name, but you know what?
I know Jonathan is Platinum.
Yeah.
And they made a joke about that really early. He likes the...
I want to say, was there something like the Flash or something like that?
I don't know. I saw several in the comments, like the Flame or Gazelle.
Maybe it was Flame.
All these Blaze. Could have been all of them, but
we'll have to look this up because I forgot. But yeah, so
it is fun to follow them and to see their, they go through some beautiful country.
They do. Yeah.
And the conditions change. They started out and it was snowing and ice and things, and now I think they're going through a lot of mud and stuff. And the New England states, Vermont and things. So it's just been, I think it's been really neat to watch.
Yeah. And Patrick's been up in that area finishing up his honeymoon. And so he'll be back with us next week.
Right.
And I'm sure he'll have some great stories to share with us about his experiences up in that part of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And, married advice.
That's right. Now, he said, what did he say? He said he didn't see any rats in New York. He saw them in D.C.
Yeah.
They're there, though. You just didn't see them.
That's the thing. I've never been to New York. But growing up, that is the thing that we always heard. And I know New York in the 70s and early 80s, New York City is a vastly different world. They
totally
started changing
different.
that in the 90s.
Yep.
And it's become a whole different world. But that's all you ever heard about was these rats that were like the size of dogs. And I just, even like my kids have been up there, and I was like, send me a picture of a rat. That's all I want to see from New York.
Yeah,
one of these rat dogs.
The movies and all of the, mobster stuff contribute to all of that. But, it is, when you go to Chicago or New York or LA to some extent too, you just get this sense of hugeness for sure, but then also just that they've been there for a long time. Now, LA less so, but Chicago, New York, New York especially, it's got so much history.
Oh, a ton.
And the buildings, for the most part, are pretty modern. Like you said, they've done a lot of change since the 90s, but it's just very impressive for folks that live in the country like Jackson. Yeah. Hey, Jackson is bigger than Bells or
and
that was places, but
and I grew up in North Texas, away from Dallas, but we would go into Dallas, and Dallas has grown into, I mean, it's an incredible, the Metroplex is what they call it in Dallas, Fort Worth is so large now, and it's a very impressive modern city, but even it's nowhere near as traditional and old and stuff as New York. New York was the first civilization on this continent, except for our Native American brothers and sisters that were here before. But you know, that's that area and all up and down the East Coast is pretty cool.
New York has got so much history from Ellis Island and all of the different ethnic groups that are a part of it, and the way the boroughs lay out. It's just it's very unique and obviously very huge. But when you're traveling in it, for people that are used to driving themselves, it's a big adjustment to public transit and you know how you get from one point to the next. You can a lot of times you can walk. You know, in the daytime, and I'm not saying there's a lot of crime there, but it's a bigger city, so you have to be careful with that. But when I've been there, I've walked all over the place, not from Times Square down to the south of the Manhattan, but not that far. But you can walk. And I always wonder, in that way, are some people healthier because they're actually out and biking and walking,
moving around,
and those kinds of things, and going to Central Park to do your exercise routines and whatever. Now, not everybody is like that, obviously, but you have that opportunity to do that. I suppose it's just like anything else. You have to make a point to do it. But I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I know Barbie's aunt lives in Connecticut, but she works in New York a lot. I think actually they've moved everything into Connecticut now, but she would ride a train in, like an hour in, an hour out, and then she would wear her sneakers in, walk to her office building, and then put on her high heels for the rest of the day, and would reverse that on the way home. You know, and they very seldom ever drove to the city. And I've met people in the Navy or in college, and they would be from up there, and just over the years, and they would never had driven, you know, stuff like that. So that's just so foreign.
Well, we've talked before. You wouldn't need a car.
You wouldn't. Yeah.
We have some friends that live in Baltimore or Baltimore, whichever way you say it. And they go down to DC all the time, and that's what you do. You just go. Maybe you drive to the station, but most of the time it's close enough to where you live because there's stations all over the place. You catch a train, you ride down to DC, you do your day, and then you ride back. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You know, most of what I know about New York is from movies and Hallmark shows, you know, that are like you leave there to go to some little cottage for Christmas. And, you know, New York was the big city where you were big stuff and you forgot who you were. And now you discover yourself.
That is such a formula, you know, because I just watched a movie with one of my daughters. It was not a Hallmark. Well, I didn't watch it on Hallmark Channel. But it was this story where the person was a big reality star in LA and got sick of that and sort of wised up to the fact that she was being used a little bit and was going back east to Pennsylvania. I'm not sure exactly where, but she got stopped in Kentucky. She had car trouble. And so then she had to wait while the car was getting fixed, and then she met someone, and you know, and then people from LA came back to try and find her. It was your typical kind of formula.
Yeah, it's a great formula. And we're, you know, it's Christmas in July on the Hallmark Channel right now. So it's just everybody's like, oh, what's good? What are they going to show us this year?
You know, that is a funny concept because when I was working retail, we were all about the Black Friday in July.
Yeah,
that was just starting to come about. I'm not sure who sort of coined that, probably Target or something, you know, but I heard these ads just today for Black Friday in July. I think it's maybe the whole month. They're talking about all these free shipping deals, and free shipping is pretty much standard nowadays though. But isn't that an interesting concept? Christmas in July.
You know, the funny thing, when you play the music channels on your TV, and they have the stuff that's going across the screen, there is a country, I'm trying to look it up right now, that celebrates Christmas in July.
Oh, really?
And I'm trying to find it right now, because the funny thing is, it just goes across there, and I just forget. I've seen it 100 times. But you just stop and think about, not everyone does exactly what we do. We make such a big deal out of Christmas. It's become so commercialized.
Yeah.
Yeah, Australia is New Zealand, South Africa. They all have some celebrations for Christmas in July, and it's a big thing.
Well, that makes sense,
that
right?
Area.
Because
Mhm,
it's their coldest season is in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
time.
So, and I think New Zealand maybe is the one. Yeah, New Zealand's the one I'm thinking about that makes it's a pretty big deal. I mean, that's when they actually do a lot of their, their Santa-y cold stuff. Yeah, exactly. So we just get in this habit of the way it is around us is the way it is around the world, and the world's a pretty big place.
That's right. Well, the Americans have been accused of being a little bit egocentric.
A little.
Occasionally.
Okay. And that's what we, again, go back to our movies, and that is what we see. And, funny thing, this was on a movie one time, but, in video games a while back, you'd always fight your foes, right? At one time it was Russian kind of things.
Yep.
Another time it was the Middle East type deals. And this funny thing is some friends of mine who were overseas in military, and they said, it's a humbling experience when you walk into a place and you're the bad guy on the video game.
Yeah.
And no one here ever thinks about video games where we would be the bad guy.
Right.
And that's really funny.
Right.
And, they thought that'd be a pretty big deal. But you think about all of our big summer movie blockbusters, Rocky IV was a big, big movie blockbuster, and it was us versus the bad guy. The good guys versus the bad guys, and, things like that. So just stop and think about some of the movies over the years. And
well, that's what I was thinking we might talk about today, oddly enough, because I was thinking about this. You and I have had a little bit of conversation about movies we've been anticipating for a year, right?
Exactly.
And they still seem to not be ready to come out. So we were talking about Maverick. We've talked about that before, the Top Gun, quote unquote sequel that we've been waiting for,
for 20 years
to get to. And I didn't realize this either until you said it, that it's been delayed till the fall, or actually November.
November, yeah.
And I was wondering why that was.
Yeah.
And it turns out, at least from what I've been able to see, that it's because of all the PR and the promotion around it that they can't get it done in time for a summer release.
Yeah.
And that boggles my mind a little bit when I think about it on the surface, but there's a ton that goes on worldwide nowadays for these things. But apparently Tom Cruise is also shooting 2 more Mission Impossibles right now.
Yeah.
And I think he's scheduled to do this movie in space or something. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I saw a thing where he's literally supposed to film part of it on the International Space Station.
Yeah, which would be maybe the first one that's ever been done that way.
Yeah, it would be completely the first one. That's where they're making a big deal about it. It'd be the first movie, our first portion of a movie ever filmed in space. For real.
Yeah. Well, that'll be cool to watch.
I mean, I guess what happens if, are they hoping that something bad happens to poor Tom? So they're like, come see Maverick, his last movie he ever made before he was blown up at the International Space Station. Surely not.
I tell you, that dude is so prolific. I mean, think of all the films that he's been in. And how many of them have been super huge?
Oh, goodness. It's crazy.
Now, there's some that haven't been.
Yeah. But just stop and think about all the way back to like Risky Business, The Outsiders. He goes way back there.
I know. Anyway, I thought I found a list of the top 10 highest grossing summer blockbusters.
Okay.
There's all these lists out there, but I think this one is adjusted for like with inflation.
Okay.
And all that stuff, and it has the original.
Now these are just summer blockbusters, not the biggest
I think so.
ones of all time.
Let me just confirm,
because I know there's some people that really get all
very technical,
been out of shape.
And it's funny that Patrick isn't here.
Oh, he would be all over this,
all on this. These are just the ones that were released May through August.
Okay, all right.
And I bet all of these you would guess maybe that would be on here, but. Number 10, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay. Yeah, definitely see that one.
700 million. Now, do you remember seeing that the first time?
I do. And it was a big deal to go see that.
Isn't it funny how when we think about that, how much nostalgia is attached to some of these things?
Yeah, definitely.
And this one was Steven Spielberg, of course, and he is the director that has most of the movies on the top 10.
Yeah, he probably created the whole genre of summer blockbuster just on his own.
Interesting enough, and we'll get to it later. What was considered the first Blockbuster. Do you have any guess?
Jaws.
Yep. Yep.
Trivial Pursuit, here I come.
Yep, that's right. And you think about it, that was 70, I'll get to it
76, 77?
Yeah, somewhere in there. But anyway, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's that classic adventure.
Yeah.
It had action in it. It had history. A
lot of churchy stuff in it.
Yeah,
a lot of
totally
churchy
did
stuff
with
in
the
it.
first one. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Of course, they've made, 3 others?
And he's making another one right now.
Is he?
Mm-hmm. Harrison Ford is working on the next Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I love movie trivia.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 700 million is the adjusted, and that was in 81.
Okay.
So that was sort of the height of, I think, where summer blockbusters were coming into their own, really.
Yeah. And special effects and stuff was really growing and there was a lot of neat stuff happening in that world too to make movies that much better.
Totally. And if you think about the difference between what was before and we talked about this before, sci-fi movies were just like those B movies that were really cheesy.
Yeah.
People like Spielberg and George Lucas and that crew of directors really started to evolve the film business.
Yeah, definitely.
To include things like special effects were not just how you make blood look good on black and white.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff. Number 9, Jurassic World.
Jurassic World.
Now, this was 2015, 705 million.
And that was number 2 in that series? Jurassic Park was...
Well, no, it would have been... Oh, in the reboot?
Yeah.
Number 2 in the reboot?
So number 2 or number 3
yeah.
in the deal. But
because they had previously had 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Jurassic Parks. Yeah, this is the one with Chris Pratt.
That one kind of surprises me a little bit, actually.
A little bit for me, too. The original worldwide gross was 1.6 billion.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, now that's worldwide, so I think they're talking domestic here. All right, number 8, Jurassic Park.
Okay, all right.
93. This, when I saw this one, this was the thing to go see.
Yeah, definitely.
And the first time we had ever seen a CG dinosaur.
Yeah. And the explosion of animatronic dinosaurs just took off from there.
Oh, yeah.
They're everywhere now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and what I think is really neat, and some of these movies sort of share this culture, is the advent of the visual effects company.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was in high school, I did it wasn't a book report, it was a research paper, I guess, on ILM.
Yeah.
Industrial Light and Magic.
Yeah.
Started really around the Star Wars franchise because they needed someone to do special effects for George Lucas. And that's where Skywalker Sound came in and ILM came in, Dennis Murin and that crew inventing, really writing the software to do computer graphics.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're a kid and now you're writing software. Yeah, because that's what they use a lot of young people on those things.
Well, and you think about it, I heard a commentary yesterday about somebody said, really not great movie, but remember the Revenge of the Nerds where that was the thing. And they said, the rest of your life, they tell their kids, the rest of your life, kids, is going to be Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
The smartest people that work the hardest are going to rule the world. And you think about Microsoft and Apple. Steve Jobs started in his garage.
They were all right there in that time frame too.
Yeah.
All that early 80s.
That's what I was going to say. With the computer graphics, the way that started to evolve came from people that were just programmers and you know, had an artistic flair and made movies. We couldn't really conceive of a sci-fi movie for sure, but a superhero movie today without that stuff.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Because I'm sure there's a superhero movie on there because I'm just kind of waiting to pounce on that.
Yeah. Well, and you think about a superhero movie without special effects. That's like, you remember the TV show Greatest American Hero?
Oh, definitely. With the guy with the real curly hair.
But that was a great show.
Came on Sunday nights.
Yeah, because of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I love that show.
Yeah.
It's a cult favorite.
But could you imagine Christopher Reeve with today's technology?
Well, I remember...
Because he was just the epitome of the classic Superman figure.
Right. And I think that's on... I don't know if it's on this list, but one of the lists, Superman and the original Superman series was one of the original superhero movies.
Yeah, it was.
It started that thing. And then you had the Batman series that came a little bit after that.
Yeah.
But number 7, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. That was 99. And my theory on this is there had been so long between the original series and sort of it's not a reboot, it's George Lucas's original first 3, but that's why I think it's so big.
Well, in 77, my aunt took me to see the original very one.
Oh, yeah.
Number 4 now? Star Wars.
Right.
And I could remember the weather that day. I remember exactly where we went. I remember it was tiny, small, in Mesquite, Texas. She took me there. It was like a big deal. So Aunt Sally, thank you for taking me to that. But the big thing was I got to take my kids to the Phantom Menace, to the movies.
The same way.
Mm-hmm. I got to take
cool.
my kids, and we made it a big deal, and then we went. So that's the reason people our age were like, I get to take my kids to a Star Wars movie just like my family took me.
That's true. That's
and
huge.
It was ginormous. Plus, so it was all this build up to it and everything. And so,
do you remember when you first saw Episode 4?
Oh yeah,
what you thought at that time?
Oh yeah, it was just like, and you started, the figurines came out, the action figures, and you just dove into that.
It was so different.
It was. There was nothing
that had happened before,
because you had Star Trek,
right,
online. My Favorite Martian,
right,
and Battlestar Galactica.
Buck Rogers.
By then, I don't know. I think maybe Battlestar Galactica was a little bit later, early '80s, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, Buck Rogers. You had a lot of comic stuff, but you didn't have a whole lot of. And it was cheesy,
right?
It was really bad cheesy,
right?
Like a little spaceship on a string.
Exactly.
Besides Star Trek was as good as it got.
Yeah.
And Star Trek was, even for kids, it was even a little too adultish, but it didn't really.
No, that's true.
Maybe older teenagers or something, but I was 7 years old, so I was a little more interested in, the Dukes of Hazzard had flying cars and stuff, they were jumping cars, and that was cool because you could do that on your bicycle, right? But I liked Star Trek and stuff, but it just wasn't. But then Star Wars came. And it changed the game.
Right.
It was all completely different. And it had relatable characters, even to kids, Who doesn't love R2-D2 to this day? We named our little, we have 2, or we've had 2 little iRobot vacuum cleaners. One was named R2, and the other is named Rosie after the Jetsons. So
that's awesome.
A couple of, Generation Xers there.
Yeah.
But that's what we grew up with.
I love that. I love that. I can't remember. I don't think it was the Episode 4. It might have been Empire Strikes Back, but there used to be a movie theater downtown Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't remember. Somebody messaged us, and can't remember which street downtown Jackson, but I do remember there was a little one, but that's where it was showing.
Yeah.
When we saw it. And we didn't live in town at that point. We lived out.
So you came to town, which was a big deal.
To town, yes, to see it.
Yeah.
That's my memory now. I would have been really small. That's what I think.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's pretty cool.
But the Star Wars series, you've got plenty of movies to choose from up here in that top 10 and a lot of the blockbuster list.
Yeah.
All right, number 6, a little bit of a different genre here. The Lion King.
Ooh.
Yeah, 94.
My favorite Disney movie, by the way.
I think it's got a great story.
Yeah. And it was new technology. They really pushed that, new CGI. And it was.
Well, and you got to give credit to Disney for lots of innovation. Originally doing the original
Disney
Snow White.
Yeah.
Driving the evolution of animation for sure. But also the storytelling aspect of it, I think. And whether you like Disney movies or not, that was really the driver of tons of stuff that we have nowadays.
Oh, totally.
Not only Pixar, which was inspired by that, but you've got I'm trying to think. Shrek, for example.
Shrek. And Disney. Did the Lion King, the original Lion King, it came out right after the live version of Beauty and the Beast, right? Or was it right before? It seemed like they were really close together. And so Disney too, bringing these movies that I grew up on, and you watched them on Sunday night, right? With The Wild World of Disney. And you'd always come on the deal.
That's right.
Because your parents would give you a bath, Wild World of Disney, come on, you had to go to bed. because you had to go to school the next day. But those were the one classics you grew up with, and now they're making them with real people, and the graphics and the computer stuff, the CGI stuff is just out of this world, and so pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well, and they perfected. I'm not sure that they were the first, but they perfected using famous people.
Oh yeah,
as voices.
They did, yeah.
Which is now the only thing you do. I mean, you think about even stuff like Trolls, where they get Justin Timberlake in. And
yeah. Well, in cartoons and stuff used to be where people started, right?
Right.
Or they stayed there and no one ever saw their faces or knew who they were.
Like Mel Blanc.
No one ever saw his face for a million years.
Yeah.
You know, except the people who were there. And now you can't even get into that world unless you're somebody.
Oh, I know. I know. Number 5, we're halfway through. Another Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi.
Okay. 1983,
$796 million. And that's where that series is where you really started to anticipate a sequel.
Yeah.
You're like, you knew more were coming. You had heard that from one place or another. The word got around. That and Back to the Future. What I remember being, the sequel things. Like you anticipated something coming next.
Something coming next.
All right. So number 4, The Empire Strikes Back.
Well, you knew Star Wars was going to be all over
Star
this.
Wars is, and now this is, again, adjusted for inflation. So they may not have been the highest grossing at that time. Number 3, E.T.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And this was 1982. So it's kind of in that same time period.
Yeah.
It's another Spielberg movie. And to this day, some of my kids won't watch this movie.
Really?
Because
scary.
The part where they come to his house
to take him?
Yeah.
And
it's just too intense.
Yeah. I would definitely.
And I remember that at the time watching it too. Yeah. It's like, wow, I didn't expect that. And then of course I was younger, but still, that's a.
I don't know if they're going to be on this list or not to finish this up, but it's in the same genre or same world a little bit. My oldest did not like Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Because it was too intense to her, and everybody else was like, and same thing with Harry Potter. We took her to maybe her grandparents someone took her to a Harry Potter movie. Yeah. And she was youngish, and it was a little, had a little, and it's kind of darkish, and she never did. That kind of ended her on Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings in that time frame. She just never did jump back into that. And she was a big reader and loved all that, but it kind of ended for her. She was like, it's too scary.
Well, some of the later movies, for sure, are pretty intense.
So, was Lord of the Rings not summer blockbuster movies?
I don't think,
I think they were Christmassy.
We could do another whole podcast on the Christmas releases. But number 2 is the original blockbuster, Jaws, 1975.
Yeah, I knew it was back there.
So it was early, and this is sort of...
And that's just good old-fashioned filmmaking.
With animatronics again, that we hadn't really seen before.
Rough. Yeah, definitely. Rough animatronics, too. In today's standards, it would have been...
Talk about intense.
Oh, yeah.
And
there's people today who won't swim.
I know. Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's what... I saw this comparison. They said Jaws is to beaches as Psycho is to showers.
Exactly right.
So after seeing Jaws, you didn't go to the beach.
No, at all. Not at all.
It was too real.
Yeah.
It was too real.
And now we celebrate Shark Week.
Yes. Yes. And so number 1 on this list is the original Episode 4 Star Wars. That was 1977.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun. I think that I've seen other lists on this kind of topic, and you have stuff in there like
77 was quite a year. I believe 77, wasn't it? Also, I think Smokey and the Bandit was out that year.
Oh, maybe.
I think in August of that year is when Elvis died.
Oh my!
77 was quite a year in just the entertainment world. I believe that's right. 77 was when Elvis died.
You just think about the 70s in general were kind of
a...
But on other lists that I've seen, maybe factor in worldwide gross and stuff, you have things like The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
The Batman series, which was, has gone through several reboots over the years.
Yeah.
And re-envisionings. that movie in particular felt like to me one of the darkest. The Christopher Nolan series.
He likes that darker side.
And everything that people write, they always talk about Heath Ledger and what he did with the Joker, which we hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And
that was, and we just learned so much more about Batman's history. Unless you were a hardcore comic book guy,
right,
or gal,
right,
you didn't really know. And I think even some new things came to light of that. So, that was, woo.
Now, I'm going to throw some at you, and you tell me if you've seen these. This is another list of 30 best summer blockbusters that I've seen. But did you see the Mad Max Fury Road?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had not seen that one.
Really?
I saw the original.
Yeah.
With what's his face?
Mel Gibson.
Thank you. All I could think was Braveheart. But yeah.
And Tina Turner.
Yes, that's right.
From right down the street. Lived down Nutbush down there by Brownsville.
Have you been to her
I've not been to the museum. I need to do that. I've not been out there. There's supposed to be a really kind of a neat little thing. It's the Delta Museum too.
Right.
Isn't it? So,
right.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
Oh, how is that not on the top of that list?
Yeah, I don't know. That may be suspect. I think this is worldwide gross.
Okay.
At the time. I think the other one was more domestic.
All right.
1994. Talk about an epic movie.
Oh, still to this day.
And I watched that one just recently with my kids because they were not getting the references that I was making, like run, Forrest, run.
And thank you, Forrest Gump people, for not creating Gump and Company into a movie, which was the second book, just because, again, we got into the thing of everything needs to have a second or a third or a seventh.
Yes.
Thanks for keeping an original an original.
Now, see, I learned something new because I didn't realize that it was a book series.
Yeah, they did Forrest Gump, and his Gump and Company was the second.
Huh.
He was on the space shuttle, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Got it. That would have been a little more
cheesy,
right?
A little cheesy. So.
Ghostbusters. You remember that?
Oh, love Ghostbusters. Even to this day, the original, man, that's just, yeah. I've been slimed. It's slimed.
And then that turned into a cartoon series, which I actually watched a little bit too, called Slimer. I think it was called Slimer. Yeah, with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, they even had their whole cereal series, cereal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Terminator 2.
Oh, why wasn't that on the other one?
I don't know.
Terminator,
like I said,
huge, yeah.
But that was in 91. So early 90s, we're starting to get into the
and inflation and
computer graphics. Yeah.
Terminator, there was a lot in Terminator that was new.
Well, this brings up the other top director when it comes to grossing is James Cameron.
Yeah.
And this was on the heels of The Abyss. You remember that movie?
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of the scariest that I remember seeing when I saw it at the time, The Abyss. But that technology had started to, he used the same technique. Remember in The Abyss, spoiler alert for anybody that's not seen it, where the creature gets a face.
Yeah, it's really a deep movie.
Yeah. And then he used that with the Robert Patrick T-1000.
Yeah. Where he went through the...
Yeah. And I watched something, another YouTuber that I follow too, was trying to replicate where the T-1000 walked through jail bars.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do, yeah.
But even with today's technology, it was challenging to replicate it.
Oh, wow.
And I get nerdy about this kind of stuff, but basically they hired programmers to write software just for that particular
spot
need.
Wow.
And so they did it so well then, back in 91, that even today it's hard to replicate without something proprietary, which I think is pretty amazing.
And that's why it costs $200 and something million to make a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm laughing because Patrick's going to hate us that we're doing this. He's going to hate us. Sorry, Patrick. It wasn't on purpose, brother.
Top Gun. We talked about that. 86. Classic.
Yes.
And launched a bunch of people's careers there too.
Yeah, definitely.
You had Tom Cruise, of course, which he had already made.
Yeah, he was already Risky Business and a few other things. But Anthony Edwards
Yep.
Goose was only in, up to that point, was only in Revenge of the Nerds. But it wasn't a movie career, it was TV.
Yep.
He went to ER.
That's right. Huge.
And monster for him right
Huge.
there.
You had Val Kilmer in there.
Val Kilmer, Rick Rossovich, who was in some other movies and not as bigger roles.
Yep.
Jeremy Tubbs. There was not Jeremy Tubbs from Tuberville, not from Lambeth, but Tuberville, I think it was. But there was even the old ones in there of, who was Viper? Mike.
Now you're getting deep.
He was kind of one of the old timers that was in that movie that kind of helped bring it that blockbuster.
Now this one, I'm sad to say I've not seen the whole thing. The Sixth Sense. Did you see that?
Was
one?
Is that with Bruce Willis?
Yes. And
is that the I See Dead People one?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah.
I
saw that. I had forgotten about that, really. Besides that, that's the only part of that movie I know. I See Dead People.
Superman 2, which is what I talked about a little bit earlier, 1981. The first one was in 78. So it was still in that late 70s, early 80s. And it was amazing that you could make a person look like they're flying.
I know, it was crazy.
And all this stuff, which they use lots of.
We can do better with our phones now.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's crazy when you think about that.
Also on this list, 85, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the ones that, other than Star Wars, I got into early on.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you can't have a blockbuster list without listing some Marvel movies.
Yeah, definitely.
The Avenger, a worldwide gross was $1.5 billion. Now you're talking a whole different earnings group.
Now, it wasn't the Avengers and Avatar, and aren't they up there kind of running back and forth, neck and neck, back as the top 1 and 2 usually?
Yeah, so Lifetime,
yeah.
If you consider everything from when they were released till today, the number 1 movie is still Avatar.
Okay. All right.
That's just James Cameron again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Titanic is number 3.
Oh, okay.
James Cameron. Avengers Endgame is actually number 2.
Yeah, Endgame. That's what
Yeah. But in the top 5, number 4 is Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that this is episode 7. So that's Force Awakens. And widely, at least I've heard Patrick talk about it too, sort of panned as not good.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. You see this trend happening all the time now. And a lot of people, film critics will say, well, people are just going for the money grab.
Yeah. Well, and remember back in the day, we only had X amount of film critics, right? They worked for a newspaper, or like Gene Shalit on the morning show, and you watched Siskel and Ebert. You watched them to see what you would go watch, or you watched what your local guy in your newspaper wrote, and that's what you went to see.
Right.
Now, with Reddit and social media and Twitter, and everybody is a movie critic.
Right.
And I mean, you have junior high kids telling you what to go see. And I mean, they're making big deals about it, and they have YouTube channels and stuff. And to say that hasn't changed the face and how movies work,
right,
would be wrong.
Oh, totally.
And COVID's going to make it next interesting, because what COVID did is they took already the trend to want to, in my opinion, to want to bring movies home and start showing some things on their own channels, HBO Max and Disney and all these things. And they made that legit, because that's the only way they had to make money, was sticking stuff in people's houses. And, you know, it seems like it's slow for people to go back to the theater. You know, I want to go, but honestly, there's nothing I really want to go see right now, which is so weird for the summer.
I know.
That's just crazy. To not go to a movie around July 4th is just, I mean, I just have never done that, ever. Yeah. It's so weird.
Well, and it makes me think about, too, the position of film, particularly, but other entertainment, visual entertainment in our culture.
Oh, yeah.
I would say we talked about, you know, the United States earlier and its sort of position in the world. One of our biggest exports is American culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So the big movies, the movie stars, and that's always been sort of our export. Is you think back to Marilyn Monroe and the people that were worldwide stars, not just American stars. But that now, and this ties back to a previous episode where we talked to Ted Bryant about how culture is become, is a part of us, and how do we connect that to our spiritual life and our Christian walk.
Oh, definitely.
So you see things now, and it's not just now. It's not new necessarily when you have Christian themed entertainment, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We've seen movies like War Room, and the Hendrick brothers have done fantastic in sort of bringing those things more into the popular
The Chosen,
genre.
what they're doing right now. But they're
exactly.
using their own platforms. And
Exactly. So
crowdsourcing.
as we think about, maybe not the churchy word evangelism, but we think about spreading the message of Christ to people, regardless of whether they're churched or not, what role does entertainment or visual medium play in that?
Yeah.
And you see what some people would say a trend in using film, television, moving pictures in worship services,
Yeah.
your big mega church kind of thinking. But that's so ingrained in us as United Statesians.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it play a role in how we get the message out?
I would think so.
Because we think in moving pictures so many times now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, to your point, entertainment is not, you don't even have to go anywhere to see a movie. You see it in your own living room. It's so much a part of us.
And you don't even have to go anywhere to see church.
No.
Go to church.
Shouldn't we be telling the Jesus story, and not even the historical thing, just about how we relate to life through visual mediums?
Well, and I think something that is unfortunate is this concept of, all right, we were talking about Tom Cruise, and he's a renowned Scientologist. So can I like Tom Cruise movies and not even give a care about Scientology?
Right.
I personally can, because I know exactly what that is, and if that's what Tom wants to do, but because we say we like someone, everything Hollywood seems to have some tag, even sports stuff, and them bringing the thing of college likeness and money for that.
Right.
Just how there's going to be people grabbing at these kids, and it's just going to, but then they're going to be forced to make these statements, or maybe they're going to make these statements. And now, should I not like the Vols because their top 3 players are all about a particular something? Well, the thing is, we've gotten where we've so polarized each other on our media blitzes that we do. And is this the end of the film situation? Like it has been, where it's been the centerpiece. I mean, baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, movies. You have to put that up there with it. Entertainment, definitely. Yep. Are you going to make your movies just for particular groups, or The Chosen? I love The Chosen in several different ways. I mean, there's so many theologians who are fighting against it.
Sure.
Because it's not word for word, but at the same time, it's not just Jesus, it's The Chosen. Well, who knows if I'm going to click on The Chosen and all of a sudden I'm watching something about Christ. Right. And I'm getting the essence. I may not be getting the word for, but I'm getting the essence. It's so interesting to know how we share the gospel, how we share life, how we, and what will we allow? I mean, because I don't, like you said, not everyone likes Disney, or not everyone stands for Disney, and I'm sure not stand for everything they stand for as a company. And it's hard. They own so much and do something. It's hard to even know what all they stand for.
Right.
Right. I know one thing they do stand for is that list, making that money.
Well, and you think about, I mean, even your small business.
Totally.
It's
personal. I know soccer moms who are deathly afraid of on the sidelines, in the car line at school, of being canceled.
Yeah.
They're really concerned about that.
Right. Yeah. So it's such a big part of our lives these days. To not talk about it, or to assume that it doesn't affect us, is just head in the sand kind of thinking to me.
Definitely.
And I think that, to me, it's important for us to talk about it within a Christian worldview.
Completely.
And it's not just being aware of, what the parent company does and saying, okay, we're not going to support them because of this thing they did. That's a part of the conversation, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And stuff we need to consider and make our own personal decisions about it.
Exactly.
I don't think on this podcast we're espousing one point of view or another.
Never.
That's not what we're trying to do, but we do want to challenge, our thinking and try and bring it back to, what would Christ say about it?
Yeah.
What does Jesus have through his example, through the truth that's in the Bible? how should that govern our lives?
It goes back to what Ted said about being a part from that scripture, being a part of the world and not of the world. And he just goes back to that and fully understanding what that means.
Mm-hmm. We do have to make decisions for ourselves, what we're going to, support or take in, those kinds of things. But ultimately, we don't make the final decision on it. So we have to be really careful on it. But I guess my whole point on this was that entertainment is a part of our life.
Yeah.
To say that it's not, or to say, well, I'm not going to take part in that, it affects our culture. It affects everyday life in so many ways we don't even think about.
Yeah.
And so it's worth having a conversation on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I know it's a big part of the conversation of the fabric of the country and of the world right now. And, and you're going to get it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not going to totally avoid it. So it's a matter of what you take in, what you're able to deal with, but also what we show our kids, what we show, how we deal with those things is so important. What comes in affects us, period.
Totally right.
Completely. I don't care what you say. Violent video games, crazy rock music, classical music, Cocoa Melon, gets to us at some level. So we just need to be careful with that and make sure what we're ingesting is as much of Christ and stuff as we can. But there's other things to ingest. But whatever we digest and whatever we put out needs to definitely have the breath of Christ with it.
Yep. Some things you can try and help your kids avoid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when they're younger.
Sure.
And that's really important to sort of protect a developing personality.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really important.
Yeah.
But as they grow, which we're finding, all of our kids are now teenagers or older, it's inevitable.
Oh, yeah. They're going to find it.
Going to see something at some point. And so it's a matter of, like you said, framing it within a Christian perspective. Because one of the things that we've always tried to help our kids is to respect other people, period. Mm-hmm. Respecting is not necessarily agreeing with what they
It's not giving permission.
Believe God created that person.
Exactly.
And so that requires some respect. But being able to interact with people that are different than you are or think differently than you are, I think is really important. I think of examples of Jesus, like the Samaritans. Now, he didn't, he interacted with, didn't always agree with the Pharisees and
exactly.
But I think that's an important point of view, and we've always tried to teach our kids that. And so when they come up against something they don't agree with, or maybe have never seen or don't understand, have they been given the tools to try and interact with that and think about that critically and think about it within a Christian perspective? And that's hopefully what they grow up gaining, so that they can, make informed decisions about that. And that goes for everything, right?
Sure,
so
everything.
Relationships, how to avoid trouble and all those things. Can they think critically or use the tools at their disposal, whether that's Christian peers.
Have the community around
mentors,
them.
Or use those tools. Not always can we do it on our own.
Exactly.
Well, wrapping up this about the movies, I wanted to throw a couple others out there that sort of are within different franchises, I guess, would you say. The Fast and Furious.
They're the blockbuster of this summer right now.
Yep. What is 9 is the most recent one?
9,334, I think. So
you have all the Marvel movies. You have Harry Potter. You've got Disney in there with Frozen and Beauty and the Beast and all this. But you have other studios like The Incredibles.
Oh, yeah.
Lord of the Rings, you mentioned. That's in like the top 30 if I'm looking at this list, right? James Bond.
Oh, goodness.
Skyfall.
How in the world did you miss James Bond?
Well, and this is lifetime gross, so it makes sense. I mean, there's James Bond. I don't know, how many movies?
Oh, goodness. Probably 15, 16,
I was just going to say
like
in the teens for sure.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, which a lot of people say is just so cheesy. They just don't have any meat to it.
That's the thing for me is when something changes what you see all the time. We had what's his name? The little guy that flew with Wendy. Peter Pan. Peter Pan, they went and fought pirates and, that was piratey stuff. And you really had to get into a book or dig deep to get into true pirate stuff. Well, now there's pirate everything everywhere. And it's all because of Johnny Depp and his pirate guys.
Yep. Yeah, you think about this whole idea of the superhero. Of course, it started in comics.
Yeah.
Shoot, it started back in Greek mythology.
Oh, definitely.
So,
Isn't that funny how we don't ever go that far back?
Oh, I know.
Let's stop at the 40s, 30s.
Mission Impossible. This is the highest grossing movie, so they're not always summer. So I'll probably stop there. But
Independence Day was fun.
Yeah.
You know, again, and then that created again, you know, we were interested in aliens, and now
Will Smith punching an alien.
Yeah, that's awesome. And flying an alien ship up to the other alien ship. And, but interesting stuff. That's
I think
fun,
that it is just interesting to think about how all these things have influenced us.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, it influences the culture and the culture influences us. We're indirectly connected to it in so many different ways.
Well, and it started in the mid 90s too, the culture of influencing and affecting the church so much because, you know, I remember, you know, the Coca-Cola, the real thing. And then there was the same script, Jesus Christ, the realest thing, or something like that. And we just started playing off of those things, which is okay. I mean, I guess copyright, maybe not, but it's okay. But at the same time, then it just kind of became this thing of the church catchphrases kind of became dependent on what was going on around us. And it wasn't like we could be creative or original when we literally have the message that needs to be shared. And we go looking for other ways to be told how to share that. And Jesus just went person to person. And that was what the early church did, person to person. And in youth ministry, we fight this all the time, right? This is, you know, come bring a friend, get an iPad, you know, and that's, again, no different than what Hollywood is doing, you know, and that's not about a number. It's about a heart and a life change. It's about, we've allowed the culture to dictate to us and the church. Yeah. And I mean.
Right. Well, let me throw this out at you in regards to that conversation. So do you think the things like developing slogans that are similar to a secular slogan, for example, does that water down the witness or the message, or does it make it more accessible?
It's interesting. And I think it's hard. I don't think it's a yes or no answer, really. I think it's a little bit because each person's individual. You know, someone asked me once, are you an expert in youth ministry? And my response to this, I am an expert in youth ministry concepts. I will not toot a horn or anything. It's just after 30-something years. Yeah,
a little about it.
I know a little about it, but I will never be an expert in youth ministry, because to do that means I have to say that I have experted the lives of each student I've been in front of. And that is an impossible task. Only God can do that. Yeah. So I will never truly be an expert in youth ministry, because it is about the youth, the adolescents, the young people that are in front of you. For me, it boils down to that personal stuff, and the variety of what that has been over the years is just so enormous. I can't even wrap my brain around it.
Well, and don't you think it's bound to be that way forever? Because it should change with the time. It should change, to your point, with the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the saying, love the person in front of you, meaning that person is unique. And the time is specific to that time. What presents itself in front of you is what you have to deal with. Yeah. And it should be as specific to that person as it can be. And that includes a lot of different pieces and parts, right? The culture,
totally. Yeah.
What their experiences are. All those things are specific to that time and circumstance and things like that. And so the culture they bring along with them.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely.
It's not like we can separate that from the person. And so the message needs to be relevant to that person. And that's a challenge for us to do, to be that flexible, to try and make it personal.
An example is for our confirmation class, which is always sixth graders, or almost always, we have mentors. And many times they're grandparents, parents, people that would be older brothers, aunts, uncles. They're well established in their faith walk. And every year I do a class with them during their training of how this generation talks.
Yeah.
And we use words like, oh, the new one is bussin'. That's bussin'. Bussin'. You know, and it used to be bad. Oh, that's bad, man.
Rad.
Or that's cool. Or, you know, I'm stoked about that. You know, those things have changed so much. But we use that word, and we go through the social media words, and we go through text language and stuff. Just what we know at the point, just to help them have a conversation. If they run across this, don't be freaked out. So learning how to communicate is where the crux. And if it's a movie, if it's a blockbuster, if it's a saying or a slogan, I mean, we need to be about it, but let's be original in it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's don't go stealing things, you know?
No, I agree. A very interesting conversation. It will never be solved.
Never. Ever.
But I think it's in the conversation that we learn so much, and from other people's point of view, be able to grow in our faith and grow as a person.
Yeah, completely.
If we stay in the same spot all the time and never change, then we're really, what's the saying? If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
Something like that. True. So I think that's really important. And I think that it's cool to have conversations with a Christian perspective and to bring things back into focus for all of us. Blockbusters are fun.
Blockbusters are fun, and it's fun to talk about and yak about, and just like sports and all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure our new pastor, Kevin Glenn, is going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning since they won the Stanley Cup last night. And he will be here next week in town and getting started, and you can meet him soon. And Patrick will be back.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he's going to be... y'all, get ready. It's going to come. There will be a follow-up podcast to this podcast, even if it's just him sitting here telling you things.
It could be.
Get ready, because he's going to hate us for this. Sorry, Patrick. We love you, brother. It wasn't on purpose. It just was just on our hearts.
That's right. What we were thinking about this week.
Yeah, so...
Well, hey, thanks for podcasting with us, everybody. We're really glad that you tuned in to listen to us this week yap about movies. But we're here to talk about things that are in our lives, and meeting people where they are is really our goal on this podcast. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you look at our website, northsidejackson.com. You can check us out on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. And then if you have a question, either a topic to share with us or something you want to know, you can always email podcast@northsidejackson.com. We really love to hear from you. We're thinking about, as we go ahead, some other things we can do with the podcast, whether it be like a live stream that we can do and get all of you people out there involved as well. Never miss a show. If you like what you hear, then subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. That'd be great too. We'd love to know that you're listening. If you find it informative and entertaining, share it with a friend. Just let us know. This is a ministry for our church to let you know kind of what's going on, but also have good conversations about things here at Northside Church in Jackson, Tennessee. All right, Glenn, we've talked about upcoming events, excited about VBS this week, and everything that's coming down the pipe.
Yes, we are.
Again, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Glenn, but we're not Reverend Kevin Glenn yet.
Reverend Kevin Glenn is coming. But that's what's happening at Northside Now. Bye-bye.